longest-running computer show. Sound Bytes. Call the show now at 966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299. Toll free 800-790-0415 or soundbytes.org. Now, alongside Steve Ray and Dave Enright, here's Nick Francesco on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all the gyps in the BC. It is Saturday, the 9th day of December. Jeez and crackers. Anno Domini 2023, and you, you lucky people, you're listening to Sound Bites. I'm Nick Francesco.
I'm Dave Enright.
And I'm Steve Ray.
And at 6 minutes after the hour, we're going to be bringing you news, views, things to choose, nothing to lose, kick off your shoes, don't get the blues. Did you pay your dues? Here comes the news. Before we go to the news, today is Grace Hopper's birthday. Those of you who don't know who Grace Hopper is, she is the woman who invented COBOL. She is the woman who chaired the committee that eventually became the National Institute of Standards and Technology. She's the woman who found the first computer bug, literally, a moth in a relay in a computer that was stopping it from working. And she said she debugged the computer. And that's Admiral Grace Hopper. Today is her birthday.
I wonder if there's any place you can buy a nanosecond anymore.
That's
right.
She
how many did she give away? Thousands?
Tens of thousands. She used to carry around an 11.8-inch piece of wire. She actually handed them out at conferences and said, this is a nanosecond. This is how far electricity travels. And she was careful to say, in a vacuum, in a nanosecond, 11.8 inches. Now, it will travel slower in the wire. That's true.
Yeah.
But 11.8 inches. That's why she kept saying computers have to get smaller. The closer the components are together, the faster the computer works because the electricity flows less distance. So she had those. She had pepper that she carried around. Each grain of sand was a picosecond. She'd show a spool of thread of copper wire that was 900 feet, some odd feet long. That's a second. She was...
no, millisecond, wouldn't it? 106,000 miles per second.
Yeah. It was a millisecond. So, yeah. But, yeah. All right, so the news. Logo fail. This is courtesy of our friend Steve. No, not that one, the other one. No, not that one, the other one. Logo fail is a constellation of 24 newly discovered vulnerabilities that have lurked for years, if not decades, in the Unified Extensible Firmware Interfaces, or UEFI. That's the thing responsible for booting modern devices that run Windows, Linux, or Intel Macs. The vulnerabilities are subject to a coordinated mass disclosure released Wednesday. The participating companies comprise nearly the entirety of the x64 and ARM CPU ecosystem, starting with UEFI suppliers AMD, Insight, and Phoenix, and those are sometimes called IBVs, or independent BIOS vendors, the people who make the BIOS chips that boot up your computers. Device manufacturers such as Lenovo, Dell, HP, makers of CPUs that go inside devices like Intel, AMD, designers of various ARM CPUs. As its name suggests, logo fail involves logos, specifically those the hardware seller that are displayed on the device screen early in the boot process, while the UEFI is still booting, like we talked to the Intel guy about. Image parsers and UEFIs from all three major independent BIOS vendors are riddled with dozens of critical, with roughly a dozen critical vulnerabilities that have gone unnoticed until now. By replacing the legitimate logo images with identical-looking ones that have been specifically crafted to exploit these bugs, logo fail makes it possible to execute malicious code at the most sensitive stage of the boot process, which is known as DXE, which is short for Driver Execution Environment. Once arbitrary code execution is achieved during the DXE phase, it's game over for platform security, said researchers from Binarly, the security firm that discovered the vulnerabilities.
Yeah, whichever.
From this stage, we have full control over the memory and disk of the target device, thus including the operating system that will be started. From there, logo fail can deliver a second stage payload that drops an executable onto the hard drive, before the main OS has even started. So if you think your antivirus or anti-malware is going to protect you, it hasn't even started yet by the time logo fail is working. The best way to prevent logo fail attacks is to install the UEFI security updates that are being released as part of Wednesday's coordinated disclosure process. Those patches will be distributed by the manufacturer of the device or motherboard running inside the device. It's also a good idea, when possible, to configure UEFIs to use multiple layers of defenses. Besides Secure Boot, this includes both Intel Boot Guard and, when available, Intel BIOS Guard. There are similar additional defenses available for devices running AMD or ARM CPUs. Most people, of course, often don't, if ever, update their BIOS or even know how. Every BIOS manufacturer has a different method for updating the BIOS, and none of them are simple. Added to that, of course, is the fact that if you screw up the BIOS update, you may just have turned your lovely computer into a very expensive brick. So don't call us to ask how to update your BIOS. We don't know which BIOS you're running, what version of that BIOS you're running, how that all works. You've got to talk to the manufacturer of your device. So our poll of the week at soundbytes.org, that's Bytes with a Y, Francis would like us to remind you, is logo fail hits nearly every computer. Your choices are: I'll update my BIOS immediately, I'll take it to a shop immediately, I'll get it done eventually, and going commando, baby. So far, we've got 18 votes, and I'll get it done eventually is number 1, followed very closely by going commando, baby. Probably not your best 2 choices. But, of course, you can give us a call, 585-966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299, toll free, 800-790-0415.
Or you should have added one more.
Yeah?
I guess I'm making the switch to Unix.
No, Unix machines still use
The UEFI.
This is independent of the operating system you're running. UEFI happens before any operating system boots. So the only one that doesn't have it are the M series, the M series Macs, Apple products.
They don't. I mean, I don't have this vulnerability.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're talking
But it would
specifically
have
about
to-
logo fail at this point.
But it would have to be downloaded to your machine.
No, it can happen at the manufacturer. So
Oh, well, yeah. from
I
the-
make a BIOS.
Yeah.
I send it to you to
I
put
see
in
what-
your computers. Some jamoke at your place already has put the thing in, and it's done.
We have seen that happen in the real world.
Yep.
The manufacturer gets infected with something, and it ends up on all the brand new
Passes it, yeah.
computers. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Apple
rare,
has
but it happens.
It happens.
Apple has some other security features built in to the newer Macs that prevent booting an external drive and prevent booting a non-signed OS and all. And it's a horrible pain in the
Neck.
in the
Aspirin?
neck for we in service, because that means we can't service the computer. We can't run diagnostics. We can't run our system disks.
Well,
So
that
we're- in
happens
this-
on
we've
that
got this
happens
one
in the
company
Mac in the PC world as well.
Yeah.
You can lock all kinds of things in the BIOS. Nobody ever does.
Yeah.
But you can. And I've gotten machines from people, and they
Yep.
say, I didn't do that. Okay.
Your large company you work for does.
The large company you work for did, or somebody snuck into your home
Mm-hmm.
and did it, behind your back. Yeah, it's
If only the bad guys would use their powers for good.
yeah, exactly.
It hurts the good people more
Well,
than the
somebody
bad
did
guys.
that. Somebody
Yeah.
found a vulnerability, and the first thing he did was write a program, a worm,
Mm-hmm.
that went from machine to machine and fixed the vulnerability, and he got sued.
Yep. There was BBC did a documentary years ago about botnets when botnets were new, and they bought a botnet and did all their research, and then had the botnet put a picture up on screen saying your computer's infected with a botnet. Take it to the shop right now, and they got sued and broke laws because they interacted with
Trespassing.
computer trespassing, took over someone's computer, made someone's computer do something they didn't want it to do. So the good guys get screwed all the time.
Yep.
So that there's always the side channel on new computer laws where they want to, except for research.
Right.
But then the bad guys can say, "Oh, I was only researching."
Right. But it's you really look. If you haven't updated your BIOS in a while,
If ever.
spoiler alert, that's all of you, by the way, except for a very, very, very small number.
And I wouldn't advise, if you are even the slightest intimidated in doing this, take it to a repair shop
Take it to a shop.
that knows how to do it. Don't
And-
try. It's just like we tell you constantly, do not go into the Windows registry.
Right.
We have never told folks on this show, and all the times Windows has been out with the registry, tell folks how to go in there and edit and correct things. We're not going to be responsible for messing up your machine and, like Nick said, turning it into a big brick.
Right, and we don't want you to do that to your computer with this. So take it to a reputable dealer and have them update your BIOS. There are a few of you listening. Well, I suspect that the percentage of people who could do it themselves are higher listening to this show than in the general public.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not comfortable doing it, get somebody else to do it for you.
And especially if you've never done it before.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
wouldn't have-
If you think getting my hands in hardware makes me sweat,
That's got to make it worse.
updating the
Same,
BIOS,
well, same with me.
it should. If
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, because this literally scares the holy pretzel out of me.
Hey, you ain't kidding.
There was also you don't have the downfall vulnerability on your news list, do you?
I don't think so.
It's a cross between Spectre and Meltdown, which were theoretical flaws. This new flaw called downfall in the code of every Intel Core processor, 6th gen to 11th gen, are vulnerable, and those microcodes need to be updated. So if you have an old PC, your microcode has to be updated now.
Right.
The biggest threat is for servers in a multi-user environment. The flaw allows one user process to read the data from another user process in the chip itself.
Right.
So this is a fundamental flaw in how the chips are built.
Oh, and by the way, logo fail, because it works at the BIOS level, is not detectable by antivirus software. Antivirus software doesn't look in the BIOS. You can't tell if you're infected.
You'd need to have a separate pre-boot antivirus disk
Right.
that you update now,
Right.
and then boot that one to run against your PC.
Right. All right, to the phones. Our first caller is Gary from Rochester, New York. Hi, Gary. What's up?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, fine.
Excellent.
Okay, I have two questions. One is that the reputable company that I bought my computer from, they're local and do provide a lot of support, and which I need because I'm an average user. And anyway, they offered a service last year of installing an antivirus software, which I used. It was quite a charge for it, but I used it along with the Security Tango. This year they changed vendors, and they installed a device or a program called Bitdefender.
Sure.
And I have read a little about it, mainly advertising, saying how great and wonderful it is. But the bad news is they wanted me to take off 2 paid versions of the Security Tango. So this is what I've got, and I just wonder what your experience is with Bitdefender and whether I did the right thing.
Bitdefender is a good one.
Yeah.
And like most of the commercial antivirus companies, they have multiple different versions.
Right.
Some are just antivirus. Some are also anti-malware. Some are also browser protection for fake URLs. And so that's probably why they wanted to take something else out, because it's not good to have 2 of the same thing running.
Well, I think that was it, and it is the top of the line. It is the one that allegedly does all of these things. I'm always suspicious of such claims, but as I should be.
And that's one of the reasons we like running different programs from different companies, because one company can't do it all.
Yeah.
Right. The big things about Bitdefender are that independent lab tests always give it outstanding scores. So that's a good thing. It has multiple layers of protection, that's a good thing. It can isolate your browser, so when you're doing, for example, banking,
Okay.
and nothing else even knows you're at your bank. right?
Although the browsers are starting to build that in to the browser
Well,
too.
yes, but this has had it for a very
Yeah.
long time, so it doesn't matter what browser you use.
Yep.
It has active do not track, so it prevents a lot of places from tracking you. And the only real con with it is that is the first time you scan your machine, it's horrifyingly slow.
Yes, I've experienced that.
But it's doing so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Bitdefender is a very good choice for an anti-malware product.
And it's currently on sale for 64% off on their website.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the company got a large discount because they're probably trying to install it on all their
As a service provider,
Yeah.
they probably do get discounts.
Right.
as they should.
And you've got somebody to call when
Yeah.
there's a problem. That's
Exactly, and that's that's a huge
That's a
plus. So
big
yeah, I
plus.
think you got a good deal there, Gary.
All right. Well, thank you. Do you have time for a second question? Or
Yes.
not? Okay. The second one is a pension that I have had an auditor, which was a big commercial outfit. They got hacked, and as a service to the people who own this, it's an annuity product that they're giving me a free year's subscription to Kroll Protection. It's Kroll. It's the same deal that I got from a local company, a local vendor that got hacked, and as a service to their customers, they gave me a free deal. Do you have any experience with Kroll as a company that it's alleged?
Not personally, no. They are an identity monitoring, credit monitoring service.
Yes.
So I know that much, but I have not had any personal experience with them. I'm afraid, no.
Well, I do check my credit frequently, and so far so good. So
Good.
I've had great luck with Credit Karma. It's completely free. It monitors all the credit agencies. You do give it your Social Security number, so you have to trust them.
yeah.
But it warns me if there's any new credit requests on my account. So it's kind of that first tier if you haven't been violated yet, I guess.
Right.
And typically, what happens is like in your case, some company gets violated and they give you a free year of Experian or a free year of LifeLock or now a free year of Kroll. So I wonder how those companies are now faring with giving out free years because they hope you're going to.
Well, you get it free.
Yeah.
They're
They're
the
paying
company's
for it.
paying for
Yeah,
it.
the other end pay
Yeah.
for it. So after that year ends, you got to put a note on your calendar now to decide if you want to renew it or not because at the end of that year, you'll end up needing to pay for it yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
If it doesn't already put it on auto pay.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of them do that.
So be very careful. Pay attention to that. And for everybody else listening, are you checking your bank balance
Daily.
every single day? Exactly. You should be doing that. If you're not, you should be doing that.
And a lot of this, especially credit card monitoring, your banks are doing for you anyway.
Right.
I
I get that at my bank. I get,
I've never
couple
liked the
times
idea
I've
of
had that.
paying for a monitoring service when I can monitor it myself. But I'm in that rare situation. I know how to monitor it myself.
Right. Well, sometimes it's annoying.
Yep.
I got this big notice from my bank that a whole lot of money had just come out of my account. Well, yeah, I bought a new furnace.
Yep.
So,
That'll
thank
do
you.
it.
Your guys were great. In and out in like 6 hours.
See, I told you they were excellent. Bought a new furnace. Did I need to get a notice from my bank because I'm the one who wrote that check?
An unusual
No,
large.
but
Yep.
you know what? It's
good.
great.
It's great that they're letting you know.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
in case something fraudulent had happened.
Exactly. No,
They're just
yeah.
protecting your butt.
So yeah, Gary, good for you, and for everybody else, check constantly. It takes like look,
Minutes.
you can get a web interface to every bank these days. So go to your bank, get that set up,
Or use their app.
or use
Most
the
of them
app,
have apps.
and you can check it every day. It takes a minute and a half. Why are you not doing it?
My wife always used to criticize me or make fun of me for checking the bank balance every day. Well, because I'm entering my receipts,
Right.
and I want to make sure I didn't miss a
Your
receipt.
balance. I balance every day.
Yeah, and then she stopped.
I still got checks. I must
Yeah.
have money in the bank.
She stopped teasing me when she missed a receipt and bounced the check.
Ooh.
All right, thanks, Gary.
Well, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, it's look, it's your money. Do what you want with it. Now I sound like JD. What's
Yeah.
his name? It's your money. Do what you want with it. But personally, I believe I want to keep it.
Yeah.
And so I check my bank balance. Like I said, you can do it during the commercial. You know, you're sitting there watching a program and a commercial comes on. I know so many of them are just riveting. I understand that. But there's got to be one you've seen before. Take that minute and
Yep.
check your bank balance. It takes almost no time. You got your phone in your hand anyway. You know you do.
At work, one of the boss's credit cards got stolen, and so we were watching the credit card company wanted her to leave it open so they could track the person down
Sure.
and catch them. So we were watching them go to Tiffany's and Saks and Nordstrom's, and then they went to Dell. And they go, nope, stop right now. No. We're an Apple dealer. They can't go to Dell.
We're not gonna get Dell on that. All right, back to the phones. Our next caller is Brian from Rochester, New York. What's up, Brian?
Well, you asked me to let you know how I made out about installing packages on Mint 220.3.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of bad news. What I tried to do is I went to, I downloaded a package, a tarball, and I went to install a tarball because I figured if my regular system isn't working, that might work. And in doing that, I hit /configure for starters, and it didn't like that at all. And of course, there's that. Then you use make, and then you do sudo make install.
Right.
Well, maybe I'm missing something when I did that. I don't think I did, but I might have.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let me start with a couple of things.
Okay.
Mint has its own package manager. Is this program you want not in the package manager?
Apparently not.
All right. So you do have to download Tarball or maybe a pre-configured version for Mint. They usually have those. Mint is very popular. Are you sure it was ./config and not .config?
That's what I've used in the past from time to time.
Okay.
Should I try just .config?
Well, usually if you do ls -a, you'll see a list of all the programs. Okay, if you have a directory that starts with a period,
Right.
it's invisible. And almost every version of Linux I've ever seen has a .config subdirectory.
Okay.
And it is in .config that it puts, here's a surprise, its configurations.
So technically, it would be /.config because you're going to root.
It would be ~.config.
Well, that would be the one in your user folder.
That's
not,
your
not
user
the
folder.
system version.
Right, so you get a choice.
Yeah, I'm seeing both on mine.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get a choice of, are you, usually it just says to you, are you installing this system-wide or for a single user?
Yeah.
And most people are installing for a single user because they are the single user. And so you would use the .config in your home directory.
Okay.
And that would be a so if you were to say ls space .config, you would see a whole bunch of subdirectories and config files that are for all the programs that are installed in your system. Not all of them, but a goodly number of them. All right, listen, stay on the line. We got to take a quick break, but stay on the line. We'll be back to you after the break. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with Dave Enright, Steve Ray, me, Nick Francesco, Brian from Rochester, and you. It is 30 minutes after the hour. You're listening to the longest-running computer show in the known universe. That would be Sound Bytes right here on member-supported Jazz 90.1. We'll see you on the other side.
Online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at soundbytes.org. More with Nick Francesco, Dave Enright, and Steve Ray next on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
NBC News Radio, I'm Dina Kodiak. Israeli airstrikes pounded parts of the Gaza Strip overnight as troops and tanks targeted Hamas fighters on the ground. The fighting has intensified since the U.S. vetoed a UN call for the immediate ceasefire in Gaza. President Biden is touting new infrastructure investments into high-speed rail systems.
At long last, we're building the first high-speed rail project in our nation's history.
Biden spoke in Las Vegas on Friday, where he praised several passenger rail projects funded through a new bipartisan infrastructure law. Projects include a high-speed rail service between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, which is projected to open in time for the 2028 Olympics in L.A. One of America's oldest and most celebrated sports rivalries is in the spotlight today. The 124th edition of the Army-Navy game kicks off at 3 p.m. Eastern Time at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Today marks only the third time the Army-Navy game is being played outside of the Mid-Atlantic. Dina Kodiak, NBC News Radio.
Open wide, here comes the airplane. This is Sandra Tsinglow with the Lowdown on Science. Bribing, begging, bargaining. We've tried everything to get our kids to eat their greens. But could it just be a matter of time? Enter Jana Berg and colleagues from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. They provided almost 40 elementary and middle schoolers with lunch for a month. Each day, the kids had either 10 or 20 minutes to eat. The scientists weighed the students' food before and after lunch to track how much they ate. Results? During the longer lunch period, kids ate almost 14 percentage points more veggies. They also ate 11 percentage points more fruit and wasted less food. As all parents know, kids are more likely to reach for the mac and cheese before the veggies. Extending lunch gives them time to finish their favorites and get to the greens. 10 more minutes could give every kid a chance to join the Clean Plate Club. Wonder if that would convince my boss to extend my lunch break.
The Lowdown on Science is produced by LDOS Media Lab in partnership with the University of California Irvine Science Communication and 89.3 KPCC, and made possible with the generous support of the Fuse Family Foundation. On the web at LOHDOWNonscience.org.
This is Sandra. Follow us on Twitter at LOHDOWN.
As a Jazz 90.1 listener, you have the ability to leave a lasting gift to the jazz community. By making a planned gift, you can support Jazz 90.1 for many years to come. For more information, contact your financial advisor or call 585-966-2660. You can also find out more about planned giving by visiting www.jazz901.org.
Jazz 90.1 is supported in part by our members and by Rock Holiday Village, December 1st through 23rd at Martin Luther King Jr. Park in downtown Rochester. This annual family event takes place over 17 select days and includes visits with Santa, kids' crafts, pop-up restaurants and a bar, food trucks, weekend creative classes for all ages, and more. For more information, including a list of activities, hours, parking information, and more, you may visit rockholidayvillage.com.
I've been driving trucks for a long time. Safety is my #1 priority. I know that my truck has huge blind spots. That's why I remember to check my mirrors often for smaller vehicles. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're behind the wheel, try to avoid lingering in those blind spots. It can be dangerous. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
What if the music stopped? If the familiar voices were silenced? If there were no breaking news updates? What if your companion and connection to your community came with a monthly fee? Don't worry, we're free local radio with you wherever you go, celebrating 100 years and looking forward to the next 100. We are broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local TV and radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
And now, a check of your Jazz 90.1 weather forecast. Cloudy and on the mild side here for your Saturday across Rochester, Western New York, and the Finger Lakes. Temperatures, they're going to be topping out in the mid-50s for highs, and you'll notice that breeze freshening out of the south. Look for showers, especially after midnight, with low temperatures Saturday night only dropping back into the mid-40s. The next storm system making its approach with an area-wide soaking rain on Sunday. We could easily see more than a half an inch in the rain bucket, the high temperature near 50. I'm meteorologist Josh Nichols for Jazz 90.1.
And currently, right now, we got cloudy skies, 59 degrees out at the airport, and 60 degrees here at members-supported Jazz 90.1.
Hi, this is Jake Longwell. Join me for an hour of the best in straight-ahead jazz from the past and present on the jazz scene. Sunday mornings at 1 a.m. on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Nick Francesco.
I'm Dave Enright.
And I'm Steve Ray.
And at 36 minutes after the hour, we are Sound Bytes, and we have Brian from Rochester still on the line. You there, Brian?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So first, I cannot thank you because you made me go down the rabbit hole of playing around in my config directory, looking at all the configs of all the software that I've got loaded on my laptop.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yes.
I haven't seen that one since the 80s.
Then I saw one that I had never seen before. I had no idea what software this was. It turned out to be NPAS, but the company name apparently is Sinew Software. So who knew? But yeah. So anyway, we were talking about the config file, and that's and again, let me back up for everybody else. We've talked about the registry. In Windows, all the configurations for every program are in the registry. This idea is, as we say in the computer world, abysmally stupid. In the Linux world, Unix world, Mac world, which is Unix, Linux, the Mac OS, etc., every program uses a separate file to do its configuration. That way, if some programmer screws up a config, the only program he screws up is his own. Doesn't screw up everybody else, which is what can easily happen in the registry. So, where do you put those config files? Well, there are two places. One is the /etc directory. That includes configuration files for universal programs, programs that every user of the system can use.
Okay.
Each individual person may have programs that are only theirs. Now, again, remember, Unix, Linux, the Mach kernel, etc., are multi-user systems.
Even if there's only one person using it.
Even if there's only one person using it. So if you're the only user, really it's Mach Nix. But for most people,
you still see that user folder with your user account.
Right. So under your username, in my case, let's say /Nick, I will have a .config file. The dot means it isn't normally visible, so I'm not tempted to go fool around in it, which you made me do, by the way, Brian. I'm tempted to not go and fool around in it, which makes it safer. But in that folder are more, in that subdirectory, in that folder, are more folders or more subdirectories, each one for a program that I have loaded on my machine, so that's where the config files live. And that is where programs expect to find the config file.
Okay.
So if you typed in a different name for the config file, like /.config or /config or something like that, the program is looking for its config file in the wrong place and probably will either, if the programmer was bright, the program will run with the default configuration. And if the programmer was not bright, the program won't run at all.
Okay.
Or run badly.
Or run badly. So that's usually what happens when you fumble finger the config file name.
Okay. Now, another thing. My computer in the BIOS, it does not allow you to boot off of a flash drive.
Okay.
But it does over a DVD. Now, most of the newer versions of Linux are running where they're becoming larger than a DVD.
Right.
So, where do I go if I decide to change operating systems? If this Mint eventually doesn't fly for me?
Well, one of the things that you can do is almost every version of Linux also has a mini version, a mini ISO.
Okay.
Which for example, in Ubuntu, you can get a mini ISO, which boots just enough of the operating system to load more operating system. So you can boot the operating system and then connect it to the network, and then it will load everything else for you.
They set up after the fact.
Right. You'll want your mic on. We do that on radio.
Really?
Yeah.
You also
I'm
may
still
want
trying to get used to that.
Yeah.
You may want to check your BIOS manufacturer to see if there's a BIOS update, because booting from a flash drive is a very common thing these days.
Right.
Yeah. Because most computers aren't coming with CD-ROM drives.
Right.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll check into that then.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you look up something, look for mini ISO in whatever name. So for example, you might search for Ubuntu Mini ISO, or whatever version of Linux you want, Arch Mini ISO, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Or they might call it minimal CD or minimal, but something along those lines.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll give that a try.
All right, have fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Those of you looking for, by the way, Ubuntu images can find them at cdimage. .ubuntu.com.
And there's so many different flavors that folks can try out. That's why I recommend if your machine is capable of booting from a flash drive, that you put different flavors. Buy a couple flash drives. Put a couple different flavors on each one. You can boot it up to that, and you can try what they go like trial mode when you're in the operating system. Not install it, just try it. It'll let you load up, and it'll show you what the system is going to look like, and you can test drive it before doing the install and taking up that time. And this way you haven't messed up a whole hard drive. And it's like, no, I got to reflash it and do this or that. Just try it that way. Christmas is coming, and flash drives are cheap.
Yeah, in the Soundbites chat at soundbites.org/chat, we have some people berating me about .config. Yes, AutoConf uses .config, and a whole bunch of other things use .config. My point is you can change in some installations, particularly when you're doing certain tarballs, you can change the name of the config directory, and it looks like that's what Brian did. So he fumble-fingered the name and changed it, and now the program is looking in the wrong place for stuff, a place that doesn't exist or whatever, and that's the deal. Also, it apparently is 35 degrees in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Is it Las Cruces? Yeah, Los Lunas, New Mexico. 35 degrees here. You should know it's significantly warmer here.
61.
It's 61 here.
Yeah. Oh, I got my first convert this weekend.
Uh-oh.
My sister Sue is down in Florida.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I get a message. I've forgotten the name that you guys recommend for storing up your passwords.
Oh, there you go.
So I typed her back and pass. Not 10 minutes later, she's giving me a call. How do we set this up?
Yep.
And will it work on this as this? I said, yep. So I walked her through in maybe about a half hour of setting up things and how she can adjust the passwords. Because evidently she had one account hacked. So it's like, yep, she had heard us talking about it. So she finally has gone from the dark side to using now NPAS. She loves the fact that she can have it on her computers, her tablet, and her phone. So,
yeah.
And you don't have to memorize all these different phones. I says...
Passwords.
Yeah, passwords. I says, the key thing, sis, is you just got to remember, no matter what website you go in and put down, a password and email address is usually the combination. I says, before you even go into that site...
Before you hit enter...
Yep. Write it all down on a piece of paper and the name of the website. So then go ahead and go into it. Once you're into it, then open NPass and create that login.
Yep.
Before you do anything else, is searching around, because once you're into the website, you're good. It won't go anywhere. But take the time to put that in there, because sure as God made green apples, if you accidentally, exit out of it, it's like, what was it? What password did I use?
Yeah, exactly.
This way, you've got it done. And then from there on, you don't have to remember those passwords.
I do it a slightly different way, which is I actually enter it into NPass before I hit login, create account in the website. That way, I can have NPass create that 64-character password, copy it out of NPass, and paste it into the setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
That makes more sense.
Most of the password managers and many of the browsers, if you store your passwords inside the browser, are using the Have I Been Pwned database to watch for password leaks. I had someone come to me the other day, and is it possible I have 254 leaked passwords?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is possible.
Turned out
or
that
you
many...
may have one leaked password on 254 sites.
Yep. And a lot of them were passwords she had already changed, but never updated the password manager, so it didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, the reason I do it the way versus yours is I've a couple times, gotten into the site, and all of a sudden, boom, I click out of it. Shoot, which one? So I can remember.
You can do it either way. For me, it makes it.
Yeah,
I've run into
that way,
sometimes.
That
I
way,
love
NPass makes the actual password and makes it so strong.
Yep.
Well, that's the other
why I
thing.
do
The
it
minute
that
I
way.
set that account up and it says, you've created the account, go in there, and I want to see what they'll allow for password size.
Right.
Because some of them won't,
This is the thing that annoys me more than anything else. When they don't tell you ahead of time how many
Upper,
characters
lowercases,
all that stuff. And then on top of that, I put the username in first because it might come back and say that username already exists.
Yep.
Okay, that I get. That's why you shouldn't use usernames. You should use email addresses because all email addresses are unique by definition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you might want to use a username. It's cuter. It's more friendly. You can be Dark Overlord 37. Fine, you can be whatever you
The
want to be.
problem when you change your email address, and you got to go back through and change all those accounts.
Right. Well, that's why you get a Google account, and
you're good forever.
So
the Roadrunner account I had for 20 years, I used everywhere.
Yeah, well, that's too bad. Yeah. That's what got me to Google to begin with.
Yeah.
I thought, of course, Google has killed so many good products, but so far they haven't killed Gmail.
Right.
So, I tend to use that one.
But
for,
They're almost
that
moving
annoys
that way.
me,
They're
though.
starting to charge more for commercial email. If you want a custom domain, you have to pay for it. I can see them adding a nominal charge, $5 a month for personal email.
that may happen.
Maybe even $1 a month.
That may happen.
Just a nominal charge, but
Right.
yeah.
And then I have to decide, do I want to give up some of my email addresses?
Yeah.
But the thing is, there are just okay. So here's the dichotomy for Google. On the one hand, they have the pressure to make more money. On the other hand, there's a whole lot of other companies that are offering free emails.
Mm-hmm.
And if Google starts charging, many people will go somewhere else, and Google loses the analytics.
Mm-hmm.
They make more money off of analytics than they do off of a couple of bucks a month for your paying for the email address.
So I just found the Google graveyard killed by Google. They shut down Google domains.
Yeah.
They're not registering domains anymore.
Right.
Google Dropcam. They bought this really cool camera company. Shutting them down.
Yeah.
They're almost getting like Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah. You post that. People will be interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Killed by Google, and then there's another one as well.
There's one where you can actually put a flower on your favorite favorite product that they killed.
Yeah, Google's killed. Well, most companies have killed a lot of products. The problem with Google is people loved the products that they killed. When Microsoft killed a couple of products off, it was like, yeah, fine,
big deal.
Who cares? But when Google kills them off, there's a whole lot of people still using them. Google Reader, for example.
That was a huge one.
The landing page. What did they used to call that? I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. But the point is,
Google Podcast is shutting down. Maybe that's why my upload links aren't working.
That could be it.
They want you to use YouTube Music instead of Google Podcast.
Right. And with things like that are not really, they haven't really killed the product. They've just changed the name.
Mm-hmm.
Apple has done that about 600 times. Every product they made was different, and then all of a sudden it was all iTunes, and now it's all separate again.
Well, there was sometimes I've seen a bunch of companies do that. Apple had a product in the very early days called iTools.
Yep.
It was the web host, it was the email host, it was picture host, and they promised it would be free forever.
Yeah.
They discontinued that service and made iCloud.
Right.
Most of which is a pay service. And so everyone started screaming, you said it would be free forever. And it was.
For that
product
other
doesn't
name.
exist anymore.
Right. But it's still free.
Yeah.
Nobody's charging you for it.
There's 293 products listed at Killed by Google.
Wow. Well, it's a big company, and they do a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but at least they got the Google Docs still going and the Google Photo. I mean, those are two key ones, along with the the email accounts that I think people use mostly.
Somebody did Google Cemetery, but Google Graveyard is alliterative.
Yeah. Google Graveyard is nicely alliterative, but yeah, there's just lots of those. There's lots of those places around. Yeah, it's a strange thing. It's market forces. It's market pressure. It's
Well, one of the features of working for Google is that you're required to take a sabbatical and work on something else, not your job.
It used to be. I don't know if it still is, but it used to be that one day a week you worked on something. Steve Wilhite did that, kid from Webster, and created a little product called Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of Google's products are one person in the company thought this will be fun,
Right.
and Google went, "You're right."
And then that person leaves, and there's no one to champion the product, so it gets killed.
Right.
Well, it's just like there's when you do a Google search, that search engine was from a young kid. He was like a teenager, and he was bored, and decided and loved programming, and he came up with that. And
Sergey
Google,
Brin and Larry Page.
And Google paid him millions.
Yep.
For that product. He goes, okay. And
yeah, why not?
Yeah, they go, okay, and then he went back out to skateboarding and playing with his friends.
Yep.
Say, are you gonna do anything? No, I just did it because I wanted to.
Yep. We see that with a lot of programs. People, that's the original impetus behind Linux. People scratching their own itch, right?
Mhm.
They create a program that did something they wanted done. Very few people then want to turn around and become a support system before that.
Because that's a thankless job.
Right. So if you can create something that you wanted to create, and then somebody buys it for a few $1 million, you win. Now you can go back to skateboarding. Yeah.
That's the business plan of a lot of people these days.
Yeah, it's a good business plan, but you have to actually sell it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This kid happened to, be a program prodigy kid and did it and just happened to hit the right product.
Yep.
So
one of the things that always amused me is we talk about page ranking in Google Analytics. Things get a page ranking. Everybody says, well, that's based on the fact that web pages. No, because the ranking was created by Larry Page, one of the founders of Google. It's Page. It could have been Smith ranking.
Yep.
So it's
There was a very early story about someone who gamed Google. It was a shoe company, I think, and he would sell shoes and never deliver any of them, accept credit card payments. Every now and then would ship something out. But when you Googled shoes, he was the top rank.
Nice.
because of all the bad reviews he got.
Oh, nice.
So in the very early days, Google rankings were based on how many links there were to your site. So he knew, hundreds, thousands of bad links would put him to the top of the list. Because no one reads the link. They said, he shows up at the top. All right, we'll go buy from them.
Yeah.
There was a story about he scared some woman into paying more because I know where you live, and sent her a picture of her house. Well, of course he knows where you live. You send him the address to ship the shoes to.
Right.
And you can easily look up.
Yeah, Google Earth.
Yeah, well, even before then, there were places where you could do satellite photos.
Yep. Nice.
Yes, he knows where you live. You wanted to ship something to you.
Well, yeah, and we see that a lot. Man, every time somebody says to me, I called Microsoft and they wanted to get into my computer, my first question is, how did you call Microsoft?
Yeah.
Did you just Google Microsoft? Because if you do, you end up at the shoe guy.
Yeah.
Because the top probably half dozen links are not actually Microsoft numbers. Just like the top half dozen top links are not Apple numbers.
And most of the time when you find, the Google at least I've found does good about finding the real company number you're looking for. But for tech support, it's hit or miss.
Yep.
What I've seen a lot with Microsoft is that they want you to go through the tech chat first, and then you can schedule a phone call.
Right.
If you need to. But we have a lot of customers complaining about that. I'm having a problem with my Gmail. Who can I call? Nobody.
Nobody.
Yeah.
They
want me to do everything on the web. Yep.
That's how those things work.
They have 1 billion customers, probably more.
Right.
No way they could hire enough phone people.
And of course, it's AI now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all want it to be AI.
Well, even Microsoft, if say you lose your key number and you got to validate your key number in that, that's all automated now.
Yep.
I mean, you just put in, the number that's supposedly on your screen, and you call in and type that in, and then it'll give you a new key number.
And there's scams now with those two-factor codes, where the scam company says we need this code to help you with your account, and then the two-factor code shows up, and now they've broken into your account.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because when you call them, they get online.
Yep.
And say, I want to log in, and it says we'll send a code to your phone. Sends the code to your phone. You tell it to the scammers. The scammers type it into the real website. They're in.
Yep.
They're in. So
There's ways to automate that with bots and middle boxes.
Right. And that's what the idea behind authenticators.
Yep.
That the theory is the authenticator, but even that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
Not 100%.
Right.
That's sort of how the idea of passkeys is trying to come along. So the other end, it doesn't have any secret to keep, so they have no secret to lose.
Right.
The website asks your phone, is this Steve? And so you go to the normal authentication on your phone, Touch ID, Face ID, fingerprint, whatever, and the phone says to the website, yep, that's him, and lets you log in.
Right.
But we have 50 years of password inertia.
Well, there is that.
To get over before passkeys ever catches on.
Right. And passkeys
and before passkeys, it was Squirrel. Steve Gibson spent years developing a perfect, safe, secure login system with QR codes and phone ID. And then suddenly the FIDO Alliance makes passkeys.
Yeah, right.
Strange how that works.
Strange how that works. But, yeah. And, of course, the other part of the problem is, you could do it with fingerprints or whatever, but most computers don't have fingerprint readers.
Right, that's why they're using smartphones as the common denominator.
All right, that music tells us that you have wasted an entire hour of your life with this nonsense. But, oh, joy, there's another hour of the longest-running computer show in the known universe coming your way. That's right, another hour of Dave Enright, another hour of Steve Ray, another hour of Nick Francesco, and another hour of your phone calls, which you can join in by just calling 585-966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299. Toll free 800-790-0415. And we will have a whole hour to chit-chat about computers and phones and whatever. We don't care. We'll talk about dang near anything, whether we know anything about it or not. So take a quick bio break, and we will see you in just a couple of minutes.
It's America's longest-running computer show. Back to more Sound Bites with Nick, Dave, and Steve. Next on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
WGMC Greece Rochester. A public service of the Greece Central School District. Jazz 90.1.
Celebrating 50 years on the air in Rochester.
NBC News Radio, I'm Dina Kodiak. Israeli airstrikes pounded parts of the Gaza Strip overnight as troops and tanks targeted Hamas fighters on the ground. The fighting has intensified since the U.S. vetoed a UN call for the immediate ceasefire in Gaza. President Biden is touting new infrastructure investments into high-speed rail systems.
At long last, we're building the first high-speed rail project in our nation's history.
Biden spoke in Las Vegas on Friday, where he praised several passenger rail projects funded through a new bipartisan infrastructure law. Projects include a high-speed rail service between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, which is projected to open in time for the 2028 Olympics in L.A. One of America's oldest and most celebrated sports rivalries is in the spotlight today. The 124th edition of the Army-Navy game kicks off at 3 p.m. Eastern Time at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Today marks only the third time the Army-Navy game is being played outside of the Mid-Atlantic. Dina Kodiak, NBC News Radio.
Jazz 90.1 is supported in part by MelindaMyers.com, dedicated to helping people have fun and be successful in their gardens. Information and videos on landscape design, vegetable gardening, attracting birds and butterflies, planting guides, plant profiles, and eco-friendly gardening techniques are at MelindaMyers.com.
Jazz 90.1 is supported in part by our members and by the great courses How to Grow Anything DVD series hosted by Melinda Myers. The Great Courses How to Grow Anything series consists of 4 DVD courses that provide gardening tips and information on food gardening, landscape design and care, container gardening, flower, tree, and shrub care, and more. More information is available at MelindaMyers.com. That's MelindaMyers.com.
Here's another I Love New York travel tip.
This holiday season, take a break from the hustle and bustle. In Binghamton, the Roberson Museum and Science Center's Home for the Holidays features hundreds of elaborately decorated trees and dazzling holiday displays representing holiday traditions from around the world. On Long Island, Old Bethpage Village Restoration's Candlelight Evenings, December 21st to 23rd and 26th to 29th, will delight you with 19th century buildings lit by candlelight, an 1866 decorated Christmas tree, a holiday brass quartet, and more. And the charming Finger Lakes town of Watkins Glen hosts its annual Village Christmas on December 1st. The festivities include a holiday parade, music, delicious food, a vendor marketplace, and fireworks lighting up the winter sky above Seneca Lake. For more ideas on creating your perfect old-fashioned holiday getaway, visit iloveny.com. It's easy to love New York.
Flu season is still active, and you can fend off the flu with 5 easy action items. Start with avoiding close contact with sick people and stay at home if you are sick. Secondly, wash your hands frequently for 20 seconds at a time. Thirdly, remember to cover your coughs or sneezes. Also, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and your mouth. And the number 1 action item, get your flu shot. This message brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Anthem Foundation.
Are you thinking of adding a pet to your family? Greece Residents Assisting Stray Pets, or GRASP, is committed to reducing the number of homeless pets by placing dogs and cats into compatible, loving, permanent homes. For more information on how you can give a homeless pet a second chance through adoption, visit graspinc.org. GRASP, striving for the day when every dog and cat will live in a loving, safe, and healthy home.
It's not a big deal.
Snap out.
Just get over it.
We've all heard it. But if you're experiencing extreme stress, it's not just in your head. It can affect your entire body because toxic stress can hurt us physically without us even knowing it. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, if you're feeling the effects of stress, we can help. Text STRESS to 211-211 to find a solution.
Welcome back to America's longest-running computer show, Sound Bites, on member-supported Jazz 90.1. Get online now. Call 966-JAZZ. That's 966-5299. Toll-free 800-790-0415. Or submit your question by email at soundbites.org. Once again, here's Nick Francesco, Dave Enright, and Steve Ray on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Nick Francesco.
I'm Dave Enright.
And I'm Steve Ray.
And at 5 minutes after the hour, we are hurtling headlong into the second hour of the longest-running computer show in the known universe, Sound Bytes, right here on member-supported Jazz 90.1. And we have Ken from somewhere in Maryland. Hiya, Ken. How are you?
All right. I got a question about the cell phone. I got this tracked cell phone for almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering about if the battery's going bad. Let me
Probably.
explain what's happening. I can charge the phone up to 100% and shut it off, and then come back a day later when I power it back up, it says 90%.
Yep. Battery's going.
Well, no, wait, hold on. you a day later and it's only 10% deleted?
Right,
Well,
it's around 10%.
Well, you're powering it off completely, not just putting it to
Right,
sleep.
powering it off completely where it says shutdown. Right.
Yeah, it shouldn't lose
Oh,
any.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it did that in the past. It's just recently it comes back on, and it also seems to drain quicker too.
Yeah. Your battery's going.
As time goes on, older batteries die faster, and there's nothing you can do but change the battery, or if nowadays, of course, nothing lets you change the battery, so you have to change the phone.
Well, that's why I had to get rid of my Pixel 3. I could charge it up to 100% in the morning. Before 11 o'clock, I was down to 20% and didn't do much of anything on it.
One of the ways that batteries are confusing is there's a full charge capacity. So when you're at 100% charged, it's 100% of the capacity. So your phone may only have a 10% capacity at the moment. So 100% could be 5 minutes.
Right.
Because the capacity
well,
is so
when
low.
it gets to 100%, I noticed that if you feel the charger, it usually gets warm when it's charging, and the charger starts to get cold at 100%. So I figured it's pretty much charged up.
Right, and then it stops charging, so it doesn't lose that heat.
Well, what's the life of a battery in one of those things? 2 years usually, or?
Well,
whatever.
Well, frequently I see 500 recharge cycles as the one of the common ratings. So if you charge it every day, it's about 2.5 years. No, under 2 years. 365. I couldn't count for a minute. Yeah, 1.5 2 years. And with lithium-ion batteries, generally 80% and below is considered dead.
Right.
So only that top 20% of the capacity is actually used.
Right. Is there any application you can download that would test your battery in a cell phone?
Not really.
Now, Apple has one built into their phones.
Right, but I mean, you've got a non-Apple phone.
Is it
not really? No, that's simple enough.
Is it a generic Android phone?
Right, it's a track phone, so.
Yeah.
Well, depending on which version of Android it's running, there are battery health apps you can get from the Google Play Store.
Well, maybe I'll look around, see if I can get one, see if it tells me anything.
It will tell you things, but it won't recondition your battery, really.
Right. Well, it'll tell you if your capacity is at 20%, and then you know it's.
It doesn't tell you how much life is left in the battery of recharge cycles or something.
Well, there's no way to know. If you charge every day, it's 1.5 years. If you charge once a week, it's 10 years.
Right. Also, how much do you use your battery?
Yeah.
It doesn't know. It can't.
Yeah.
It can make an assumption. So, for example, you should be able to go into, if you have an Android phone, you should be able to go into settings and battery and get an approximation of how long the battery will last on this charge.
Well, it's like asking, how long does a light bulb last?
Right.
Until it finally won't turn on anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I guess it'll have to be time to replace it soon. 2 years is about the life of it, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you can. Some phones can have the battery replaced by a service department if they're not user replaceable. We find a lot of people decide to get a new phone anyway, but we're seeing people keep the old phones to pass down to kids. But now there's becoming a big market in the cell phone companies are buying back your phones at higher than value.
Yeah.
Because then they refurbish it and sell it in a third world.
Right. You can also donate it to women's shelters.
Yep.
Because any phone, whether it's activated or not, will always be able to call 911.
Right.
So they do that a lot too.
Yeah, well, this phone has a replaceable battery, so I'm going to look around for a replacement for it.
Yeah.
When you shop for a battery, what do you look for besides the milliamp ratings to get a good battery?
You look for the battery for that phone.
Yeah.
Almost every phone has a slightly different battery.
Yeah,
so
because
Every-
they're
and
all
every
different
model phone.
styles and latching system and
it's for
everything
that model.
So track phone isn't enough to search for. You have to search
Right.
for X4Q left elbow. And
What I would recommend doing is, shut the phone off, take the backing off, pull the battery out, and see if there are any serial numbers or model numbers on that battery. Then you can go and do a Google search for that.
Or at the
that's
very
what
least,
I've done so far, but I noticed they come in different capacities for that particular model number too.
well,
Yeah,
yes,
the
but
high-
the other thing is check for that particular model of phone. That's should be even easier. It should tell you what phone you have. If it
and-
doesn't, you can always go into settings about this phone.
Yeah. And sometimes third-party battery manufacturers will sell a battery with higher capacity. So, a 2,000 milliamp hour battery lasts 5 hours. You get a 3,000 milliamp battery, it will last 7 hours.
Right.
If it'll fit. So the more milliamp hours, the physically bigger it is.
Right.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys, for the answer.
All right, thanks.
That was the problem with the Samsung phones that were exploding, that the battery was physically a little too big, and when they squished it into the case, it damaged the battery.
Yep. You got to be very careful. We all think, we use batteries every day. The newer lithium-ion batteries are little bombs just waiting to go off if you're not careful with them. So, or at least incendiary devices.
Trying to see what's the joules, how many joules are in a battery.
Right. Well, you do that. We're going to talk to Bill from Greece, New York. Hi, Bill. What's up?
Hey, good morning. Happy holidays to you all.
You too.
In my Samsung phone, I can change the ringtone so I can tell which one of my kids is calling me, etc.
Yep.
But I can't find a way to change the ringtone for either the Samsung messages or the Google messages. Is there a way to do that I haven't been able to find? And if
Should
there's not
be.
a way to do that,
It may not be under ringtones because that isn't a tone when it rings.
Within
It's a notification tone or a sound tone.
Right.
And
So
Nick is opening up his phone.
Right. In messages, you should be able to, in messages itself, you should be able to go to messages settings, then notifications, and you should be able to set your individual people oh no, that wouldn't be in messages. That would be in the individual person. For setting the messages themselves, that's under settings. I think notifications. Device and app. Hold on.
Depends on which version of Android.
This is
maybe.
very exciting radio right now.
Android 14.
Yeah, that's
Google Messages notification sound.
probably under sound.
Sound, vibration, or reminder.
Yeah, you can change the default notification sound.
Yeah, but that's for everybody. It's not individual.
For any specific individual, you would go into their message thing,
Thread.
their message, their name,
and change the individual.
In contacts? I know the Apple does it in contacts. You can add a sound to a person in your contacts.
In my case, I go into messages, I click on a message from a person, I then go up to the 3-dot menu in the corner and click on, the hell did I click on? Details. Details. Under details are notifications, and under notifications I can change the sound.
Okay, I was following you, and I found it on my phone where I go into contacts, and then I click on one of the contacts, and I click on the hamburger menu, and it says set ringtone there for me.
It's another way to get to it.
So I found it with your help.
That's another way to get to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so you can change ringtones, you can change notification sounds, so that, yes, I have separate, no, this was who we already had. There we go. I have separate ringtones and notification sounds, so it's phone calls and messages for my wife and my daughter, so that they're separate from other people. So if those go off, I know to answer. I will more likely answer under any circumstances, whereas if it's just a rando phone call, I may not necessarily answer at this moment. I'm not one of those people who's a slave to my phone. My phone is a slave to me.
Yep.
I'm the one who's in charge.
It's so annoying how much spam phone calls there are. And at our office, we have to answer them because they might be a customer. You can't ignore unknown callers.
That's exactly right. I tend to, like I've said many times, one of the nice things I really like is that Google is very good about killing spam phone calls.
I love this, screen call.
Yeah. Yeah. What really frosts my cookies is I have a friend out of the country, and she prefers WhatsApp because she gets more data than minutes, so we chat on WhatsApp. Apparently, my phone number is available for anybody to see. So I'm getting a lot of "How are you? What's up today?" from randos. Block, 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 block. So.
Or they're sending mass messages to every possible phone number.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. All right, back to the phones. Our next caller is Walter from Greece, New York. What's up, Walter?
Good afternoon to all of you.
You too.
Thank you. We're going to be looking to have a computer built by a local vendor.
Yep.
And we will be looking to have MX Linux installed. Now, we plan to have 2 hard drives. One will be a smaller solid-state drive where we're going to have the operating system on, and then we look to have another drive in order to hold the data on there.
Yep.
But we're looking for the best way to do this because my web searching hasn't given me satisfactory results. I think you probably, and since you use Linux, maybe you have a better idea. Because what I've seen is that you go ahead and put the operating system would be SDA, and then it'd be having /.
Yeah.
Then you identify the other drive, SDB. But then how do you handle that? I've seen some say, well, then you just can put the whole home directory in there.
Yes.
But would it also be efficient to go ahead and take this second hard drive, put it into 3 partitions so that the administrator user and the 2 other additional users have their own separate storage on there?
You can certainly do that. You don't need to.
Okay.
Because in Linux, that is designed to be multi-user. So under normal circumstances, the only person who can see what's in a directory is the person who owns that directory.
Right. Okay.
I say under normal circumstances because the root user, administrator, can see everything. But generally speaking, if Dave and Steve and I were sharing a computer, we'd be fighting all the time. But if we were sharing a computer, I would not be able to see Dave's partition. Dave would not be able to see Steve's, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't have to worry about that. And in general, again, it depends entirely on which version of Linux you're running. But in general, all of them have some sort of disk management system.
Yes.
So you go to that, you start with OneDrive, and you format it, and you put the operating system, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Then you go into the drive management software, which is graphical.
Yep.
And you say, okay, here's my second drive. I want you to format it. And part of the format is, what are you going to call it? You call it /home.
Okay.
And then the system, and then you set it up to boot all the time, and there's little checkboxes. And then the system says, oh, this is home. So when it sets it up, it sets up /home/Dave /home/ it sets up /home. And then as you install users, it puts them under /home.
Okay. Okay. So that's just the easiest way, so that when we have the person install it for us, he'll just go ahead and do that. We'll just add the separate users because, of course, he'll set it up with the administrative account first.
Right, exactly right.
Okay, perfect. Can I ask you maybe two other questions?
Maybe.
Okay, I'll make them quick. Part of it that I was looking around before really settling, we've been using MX Linux for a while, but I was looking around to see about any rolling distros and came upon PC Linux OS, which is, well, I tried it and it's quirky. But one of the things that's quirky about it, too, is that they have a magazine
Yeah.
with recipes, and they're back in their October issue. They came up with something that you were talking about last week about YouTube and its ads and etc. They had a review about FreeTube. Have you ever heard about this?
I've heard of FreeTube. I've actually got it on my list of things to check out.
Yeah, he was very complimentary. The reviewer was very complimentary about what it could do as a YouTube client.
Yep.
And because it has a built-in ad blocker, downloader utility, subscribes to channels, etc.
Yep.
Okay. Then, and that comes then next to that on that same magazine, they had an article about they called it the Notorious Sinister Six, based on the book written by Amy Webb, called The Big Nine, and talks about the computer companies. And
I've been meaning to read that because I've heard her interviewed on This Week in Tech.
It's very interesting how he then goes in and points out just how he's claiming that the big three, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Google, Amazon, are really all trying to destroy Linux.
Well, yeah, it's
yeah.
They charge you for things. Linux gives it away. That's
the rub.
That's a terrible thing.
Yeah, and part of it, too, is that he was in his article, and it kind of reverts to your poll this week. He says he tells you to go ahead and disable a UEFI machine because, in quotes, it's too big a risk to keep using it. It's not even plausible that UEFI, as it stands, can enforce security theater boot because it has thousands of security flaws, like you said.
Right.
And unless people update their firmware every month, most of these flaws will work and can be exploited.
Yep.
With some motherboards only have UEFI. You cannot turn it off, or the computer won't boot at all.
Right. So it is an issue. It is a problem, and we know it. We just don't have a fix yet.
Well, what about I have on my older machines the choice between going UEFI or legacy boot.
Right.
Does legacy boot have its own headaches too?
Well, legacy boot is also inherently unsecured.
Yes.
But it's inherently unsecured locally.
Ah.
Right? So basically, if you're using legacy boot and someone breaks into your house, they can get at your machine.
Okay. Yes.
They can still do that with UEFI, but it's different and it's blah, 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 blah. But any machine really is vulnerable to a local hit.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. Okay. All right.
See, one of the things with Linux is free. Most Linux programs are free. The only way the authors can write free software is they must have a job somewhere else making money.
Right, or I give money to I do with MX. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we've had this with Dave. Dave was a Microsoft Money guy for, not Microsoft Money.
Yeah.
Intuit software. What was that?
Oh, Quicken.
Quicken.
Yeah.
And now he's using MoneyDance.
Yeah.
Although there were Microsoft Money was another one that there were millions of people using it because it was Microsoft,
and then they
shut it down.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Microsoft Intuit's Quicken is a thing you pay for. MoneyDance does everything most people need, and it's free.
And the other caveat,
let's.
But you can pay for it and
Right.
get unlimited lifetime updates.
Yep.
And the fee for it, now you got to be sitting down, is $49 for
Lifetime.
lifetime
Yeah.
updates.
Yeah, and that's how these people make money. You're absolutely right, Walter. There's a lot of good free software, but the reality is if people aren't paying somebody somewhere, somebody ain't going to be making new software.
Right. Yeah. Excellent.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. And like I say, take a look at that October issue of PC Linux OS's magazine. It's interesting, to say the least.
I will, thanks.
Thank you. Bye now.
October issue, okay. I also discovered a cool thing yesterday, called Ubuntu, W-Ubuntu. Apparently, and I haven't played with it yet, it looks just like Windows 11.
Uh-huh.
It even has Microsoft Edge.
Ugh.
Well, but, for people who want Windows but don't want to pay for Windows, I haven't played with it yet. I don't know if it's any good or not. I don't know if it's still in beta. I just read about it yesterday, but it's called Ubuntu, W-Ubuntu, essentially. W-U-B-U-N-T-U. A lot of U's in there. It's an interesting idea. You can also get, PC Linux OS has a front end that looks very like Windows.
The dock is even centered.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool idea. Again, I don't know. Where'd it go? There it is. I don't know anything about it. Don't call me and tell me it doesn't work. You don't like it. It did something bad to your machine. I don't know yet. So,
that's when you have one of those extra flash drives just to play with it for a while.
Yep. All right, back to the phones. Our next caller is Dave from Macedon, New York. What's up, Dave?
Hey, hi guys. How you doing?
Peachy, how are you?
I'm good. I've been fighting with my old computer that used to have Windows on it, Windows 7. It's a 11-year-old computer, and since then I have upgraded to 10, which didn't run very good, and then I went to Ubuntu, which ran fine, but I'm finding now I have a couple of programs that will only run on Windows 7, and I need a new copy.
Well, okay. First, if you're running Ubuntu, you might try Wine. W-I-N-E is a program you load into Ubuntu, and it runs Windows programs.
Okay. This is an 11-year-old machine, and it didn't run Windows 10 very well.
No, I understand that, but
okay.
Wine is a Linux program that pretends to be enough of Windows to run a Windows program.
Okay. Well, even if I did that, I'd still need the Windows 7 install disks.
No.
Wine doesn't need them. It has basically it translates Windows instructions into Linux instructions internally, and you don't need to own Windows.
Right.
There's a commercial version called Crossover that comes with an installer and people to call for help.
Right.
But Wine itself is free, like most Unix program or
Right.
Linux programs.
So here's the thing I would suggest you do first. Ubuntu has Wine in it. Install Wine. Follow the instructions. You maybe got to get on the web and take a look around as to how to install the Windows program you want that'll run under Wine, but you should be able to do that fairly easily. And then try it. And if it doesn't work, you're no farther behind. You've wasted a couple of hours, right? But if it works, it's free. You're done. You're done.
Yeah.
And downloading a Windows install disk is
dangerous.
Well, if you get one from the right place, I'm looking at Microsoft's distribution list now. It's the license key that's going to be tricky, and the activation servers have been shut down. So even if you get Windows 7 installed, you won't be able to activate it.
Yeah. Because I still have the sticker on the machine that has the code and everything on it.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because the servers have been shut down. It will never respond to activate it. So my suggestion is you're running Ubuntu anyway, install Wine and see what happens.
Okay. Now, this program I'm trying to run is an old copy of AutoCAD 7.
Of what?
AutoCAD.
AutoCAD 7.
Oh, holy moly.
I'm sorry, not 7, 14.
All right,
Windows
listen,
7.
hold on. We got to take a break.
Okay.
Stay on the line, and we'll come back to you in just a couple of minutes. We'll be back with Dave Enright, Steve Ray, me, Nick Francesco, Dave from Macedon, and you. It is 29 minutes after the hour. You're listening to Sound Bytes right here on member-supported Jazz 90.1. We will be back in just a few minutes.
Computer talk you can understand. More Sound Bites is next on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
NBC News Radio, I'm Dina Kodiak. Israeli airstrikes pounded parts of the Gaza Strip overnight as troops and tanks targeted Hamas fighters on the ground. The fighting has intensified since the U.S. vetoed a UN call for the immediate ceasefire in Gaza. President Biden is touting new infrastructure investments into high-speed rail systems.
At long last, we're building the first high-speed rail project in our nation's history.
Biden spoke in Las Vegas on Friday, where he praised several passenger rail projects funded through a new bipartisan infrastructure law. Projects include a high-speed rail service between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, which is projected to open in time for the 2028 Olympics in L.A. One of America's oldest and most celebrated sports rivalries is in the spotlight today. The 124th edition of the Army-Navy game kicks off at 3 p.m. Eastern Time at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Today marks only the third time the Army-Navy game is being played outside of the Mid-Atlantic. Dina Kodiak, NBC News Radio.
Houseplants and pets make wonderful additions to our homes, but keeping them both safe can be challenging. Hi, I'm Melinda Myers, horticulturist and gardening expert. Select plants that are safe for your pets. Consult the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals website for a list of pet-safe plants to grow and toxic plants to avoid. Adjust your gardening style to keep your plants safe from curious pets. Mulch the soil in large planters with chunky wood chips, decorative stones, or aluminum foil to prevent cats from using the planters as a litter box. Select a mulch that won't pose a danger to other pets that might be tempted to eat it and possibly choke or have it lodged in their mouths. Hang plants from the ceiling in wall brackets or set pots on high shelves out of the reach of curious animals. Prune long dangling stems that can tempt playful pets. Check out our website for this and other gardening tips.
Jazz 90.1 is supported in part by our members and by Rock Holiday Village, December 1st through 23rd at Martin Luther King Jr. Park in downtown Rochester. This annual family event takes place over 17 select days and includes visits with Santa, shops, food vendors, weekend activities, ice skating, live music, and more for all ages. For more information, including a list of activities, hours, parking information, and more, you may visit rockholidayvillage.com.
Contributions over the years made through our pledge drives have brought great programming to our listeners. Creating a legacy gift to benefit Jazz 90.1 builds a bridge from one generation of public radio listeners to the next. Please remember Jazz 90.1 in your will, trust, or general estate plans and join our Jazz 90.1 Legacy Society. You can also find out more by visiting www.jazz901.org.
Her words weren't written under peaceful shade, but under fear for her life.
Everyone has inside a piece of good news.
For 2 agonizing years, she worried about being caught by the Nazis.
The good news is that you don't know how great you can be.
Though her story ended early, her words live on.
I don't think of all the misery, but of the beauty that still remains.
With her positive outlook, Anne Frank continues to fill us with hope. Hope. Pass it on from passiton.com.
Here's the latest Jazz 90.1 weather forecast.
Cloudy and on the mild side here for your Saturday across Rochester, Western New York, and the Finger Lakes. Temperatures, they're going to be topping out in the mid-50s for highs, and you'll notice that breeze freshening out of the south. Look for showers, especially after midnight, with low temperatures Saturday night only dropping back into the mid-40s. The next storm system making its approach with an area-wide soaking rain on Sunday. We could easily see more than a half an inch in the rain bucket, the high temperature near 50. I'm meteorologist Josh Nichols for Jazz 90.1.
And currently right now we've got cloudy skies. It's 61 degrees out at the airport and 63 here at member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Hi, this is Jake Longwell. Join me for an hour of music from the worlds of the avant-garde and jazz fusion on Jazz Progressions. Tuesday nights at midnight on member-supported Jazz 90.1.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Nick Francesco.
I'm Dave Enright.
And I'm Steve Ray.
And at 34 minutes after the hour, we are Sound Bytes, and we have Dave from Macedon on the line. Okay, Dave, you there?
Yep, I'm still here.
All right. So
Okay.
you want to run?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was AutoCAD 14.
Yeah,
the
right.
problem is it has a 16-bit loader on the thing to get it going. So I don't know if that's compatible with Wine.
Yes, it is.
Oh, great.
So the big thing here is when you mix 16 and 32-bit programs, you slow your computer down significantly. There's just nothing you can do about that if you're going to mix software.
Yeah.
There's also the question of why AutoCAD 14?
Because it's the only version I have that I really know how to work.
Okay.
And I don't, I've tried to vote other ones in Ubuntu, and they just they had problems one way or another.
And that's the catch-22, because I'm seeing good reviews on one called FreeCAD, one called LibreCAD, that work just as well as AutoCAD.
And are free.
And can read AutoCAD files. But you do need to learn a new program.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's been the danger since software came out, that I don't want to learn program 2 because I know program 1 so well. And
That's
so
right.
version 3 comes out, well I still know version 1. I don't want to learn version 3. And then suddenly version 20 is out, and well I know version 1.
Right. And that, I understand not wanting to learn a new program, but all I can tell you is try Wine and see if that works. If it doesn't, the only other alternative is to try something like FreeCAD or LibreCAD.
Yeah.
And learn it. I'm sorry.
There's probably some good YouTube videos out on it that you could, at least get you over some of the basics.
Right.
A Blender even. That's a 3D CAD, depending if you want to do 2D or 3D.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to do some simple stuff that shouldn't take me very long, but if I have to learn something new, it's going to take me long.
Well, then once you learn it, you'll be just as fast as you were in the old one.
Right. But there's no magic here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
I wish there were, but there's not. So you're gonna try Wine. It's free. If it works, you win. If it doesn't, you've got two choices. You can either try to find I don't even know how you run Windows 7 anymore. I really don't. Because like we said, the servers have shut down.
Doesn't it run for a couple of days?
It'll run for a day or two, but that's...
And then require you to be activated. So then you got to erase it and start over and run it for a couple of days.
Right.
I see. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah. We have a question here about a great Intuit program, QuickBooks for Linux. It's actually called MoneyDance. MoneyDance is a pretty good program, and it does the thing most people need. Not every program does everything the same way, but MoneyDance is an awfully good program, and most people find it's an acceptable alternative to things like Quicken.
Especially, so Quicken has gotten even nasty. QuickBooks is even worse.
Right.
So Quicken, I usually wait for the sales, and I can get it like $50 a year.
Right.
And at the end of the year, it doesn't stop working, which is nice, but it fills 2/3 of your screen with ads saying you should buy the new version.
Right.
So I tried that for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And I broke down and paid for it again.
MoneyDance is so much better.
QuickBooks has gotten worse. They're moving online only.
Yep.
And I was researching this week for a customer. Apparently, if you call their telesales, you can still buy a desktop version. It's $575 a year per user.
You should be able to use the Mac version of MoneyDance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can
But
export.
so many accountants are already using QuickBooks that they're telling their customers they have to use QuickBooks.
But you can import and export it out.
Yep.
They won't know the difference.
It was like me at RIT
with the word processing.
With word processing, everybody was using Microsoft Office. I was using LibreOffice. All I did was change my default to save and load as Microsoft Word document.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nobody ever knew I wasn't using Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be impossible. Anyway, back to the phones. Our next caller is Rick from Pittsford, New York. Hi, Rick. What's up?
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I was listening to your show on a Samsung Chromebook, and I had to answer the phone. I paused the Chromebook, and when I came back, the screen's totally dead, and I can't get it to reboot. What did you guys do to my laptop?
We went in. We don't like you, Rick. That's the thing. And we went into it.
We didn't want
and
to
killed
say it over the air.
We sent it the brown note.
But you're forcing it. Yeah. So okay. I don't have a Samsung notebook, but with most of them, you can recycle them by holding the power button in for 7 or 8 seconds. Have you tried that?
A Chromebook, and it doesn't seem to have a power button.
It's got to have a power button to turn it on and off.
No,
Well, it seems to come on and off when you open the screen.
Well, yes, but there should be a power button as
Yeah,
well. What model Samsung do you have?
Oh, I don't know. It's like 2.5 years old.
Sure,
Doesn't
they're
really say on here.
across the top. There's not a. It looks like a circle with a line in it for power.
Or on the side somewhere?
Let me just see.
Without knowing what model you have, it's going to be very difficult for us to help you.
Yeah, there is a circle there.
Yeah. Hold that down for about 7 to 10 seconds. Because every computer has an on and off button.
And you're sure
Yeah, you might close it. And laptops are like that. They go into automatic sleep mode.
Yeah,
But
no,
the
I
minute
can
you
pause
open
it.
it up, it'll pop back on. With the power button, is you can hold it down quite often if you want to totally shut it down. Say you're going somewhere and you don't want it still running and using up battery power.
Well, and you're sure the charger works and the battery's charged.
Just about to say the other thing could be that the battery died.
Yep.
Yeah, I plugged it into the wall, and I checked the battery condition about a half hour before it died, and it was good. And I've been holding the power button down, and nothing is happening.
Okay, again, without the model number of that particular Chromebook, it's very difficult for us to help you. Is there anything on the back that tells you the model number, a sticker or something?
No, it's completely blank.
When you bought it, did you buy a specific model? Do you still have the receipt? You could tell us the
Or the
model.
box
Or a
that came in?
booklet.
The box that
Yeah,
came
but
in?
Yes, I do, but I couldn't possibly find it in time.
Well, I mean, I hate to say this, but without knowing what specific model you have, it's very hard for us to help you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I've been having problems with it. I said it's only 2.5 years old, but it looks like maybe something just totally died in it.
But I would too.
So here, does the keys above the number row? Do you have a bunch of function keys there? And
No, because it's a Chromebook.
Yeah, but you have a keyboard on it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So above the number keys, is there function keys? There may be a circly arrow, and I'm seeing some Chromebooks. You hold that circle arrow, which is the same refresh circle that browsers
Right,
have,
you hold the function key down and that key.
and the power key,
Right,
and that will force it to restart.
right. But again, without knowing which model it is,
Yeah, I'm going through how to restart Chromebooks.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, thanks for trying.
Yep, sorry. Well, sadly, there's just simply saying
Yeah, if you can-
Chromebook isn't enough anymore.
If you can find the model number, call us back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, there is the off chance that it did just die and it's dead.
That is certainly a possibility, although 2 years old, you wouldn't necessarily think so.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe try a different outlet just to be safe.
I've bought an awful lot of refurbished Chromebooks
Mhm.
over the years. And I've gotten a lot of old Chromebooks from people that I moved on to other folks. Yeah, and every model is different. Every
So your name is
setup is a little different.
Oh, okay, Tammy.
And it's a problem. It's not a problem, but without knowing what mod, it's true of any computer.
There are
We don't
some
know-
generic things that work across models, but,
Right. But
specific,
right.
Forcing to reboot, something like
Right.
that, might be different.
Right. I've had that essentially the same issue, and what I tend to do is wait until the battery wears down, because it may still be running internally in the background, and I wait till the battery runs down, and then you can turn it on again. But it's got to have an on button, because the very first time you get it, it's off.
Yeah, it's usually above the delete key.
Right.
In the upper right corner.
Mine's over on the left-hand side, and it's just a button that says, it's got the circle with the line through it. And that's, if I hold it down, all of a sudden on the screen, it says, do you want to restart or power down? And I hit the power down and shuts it totally off.
Right. And some of them have it on top of the keyboard. Some of them have it on the side.
Somewhere. So
it's somewhere. There's
gotta
one
be.
somewhere. All right, back to the phones. Our next caller is Tammy from down in Florida. Tammy, how are you?
Well, thank you very much. I'm an ex-Rochesterian. I have a quick question for you regarding a second Google email I have established.
Okay.
Which is working fine as long as I am getting into it via my profile on my laptop. But I can't get to it in my devices. I have Apple devices, and I'm using the Apple email icon. So do I have to download maybe the email for Gmail, separate the app, or how do I get into it? Because there is no profile showing up when I'm on my device.
When you go into the Mail app and tell it you want to make a new Mail account, it should open a browser window for you to log into your Mail account. Are you using Safari as your default browser, or are you using something else?
Okay. I have no problem getting into it exactly as you said on my laptop. But when I am on my phone or on my iPad, both of them Apple products, then my profile per se doesn't show up, so I can't click into it to go onto the second Gmail address.
Are you using Safari as your default browser, or are you using a different browser?
I am using either Chrome or Safari, whichever.
Well, which one is your default? So you may have to go into the settings and set Safari as the default browser, because when you're in the Apple Mail program on the iPhone or the iPad, to set up a new account, it will spawn a web browser for you to log into the account with. And if Safari is not your default browser, it sometimes doesn't work, because the Safari browser passes the credentials back to the Mail app, and so it has to be both the Apple products.
Oh, naively, I thought that just because I had it set up via my Microsoft computer, which is, of course, a different product, then it automatically will somehow talk to each other, because Gmail is email.
No, you have to set it up on each device separately.
Right, you have to log into the account, the Gmail account, on each device individually.
And you likely will have two-factor authentication turned on with your Google account, so then it's going to ask you on a device that you're already logged in as, say, yes, this is me logging in. I just had to do that. For some reason, it logged me out of the Google Doc. So then I logged in on my computer, and my iPad said, do you want to log in? And said, yes, it's me, because my iPad knows. So when you have two-factor turned on, Google is going to either send a text message to your phone, or it's going to ask you to open a Google app on another device to verify that it's really you logging in on this first device.
But at base, Tammy, the idea is that you must log in at least once on each individual device before you can get the mail on all those devices.
I think the simple answer is just, why don't I just stick to the laptop and just keep on checking the second one there and don't bother about the devices?
Well, you can do that, but you can also log in through the phone and through the iPad and then have it everywhere.
And you have to do it in the Settings app under Mail accounts.
Right.
Okay. Now, but if I do it, for example, if I set up the iPhone, that won't it automatically set up with the same account my iPad as well?
No, you have to set up the iPad separately, because they're different devices.
Oh. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yep. My work cut out. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Tammy. Have fun down in Florida.
Oh, I am. Next time I come up, I see you guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. she's in Florida having fun.
But
It's
cooler
nice up here
down
today.
in Florida.
Yeah, it is cooler down in Florida. It's cooler in wherever he was in New Mexico too.
One of the things I have seen Google do is if you log into Gmail on the web and you don't have the Mail app already set up, you'll get a message saying, do you want to set the Mail app up too?
Yeah.
So it'll add the Mail app, the Calendar app, the Contacts app for those Google services.
Yeah, but you must log into each device at least
Separately,
once individually before they will accept the data. And I get that. You would think, I've set up my account, and you might think, okay, I have to set it up on the Apple device, but then it should propagate across all Apple devices. It does not.
It does not. If you set up an Apple account, it does on Apple devices.
Right.
And if you have a Google account on your Google devices.
Right.
But
you still have to log in.
Log in that
but
first
you don't
time.
have to set it up.
Yep.
You know, when you log into a Google device, it'll say, who are you? And you say, I'm, whoever I am, and here's my password. And then it'll say, oh, I know who you are because you're stored up in the web. Let me download everything. But particularly when you're across platforms, like from a Microsoft Windows laptop to an iPhone, you do have to log in separately to get that to work. We don't have universal stuff for that. It exists. We just don't have it. We don't use it. So yeah.
and it's all to stop the bad guys from getting into your account too.
Right.
So you have to jump through hoops to get into your own stuff because the bad guys figured out how to jump through those same hoops earlier.
Right. We don't have. Look, when the web was originally designed, there was no security because we didn't need security. We only had like 8 people on it to begin with.
All the code was in a drawer next to the terminal.
Exactly, and that inertia has continued. We still people write code that is not secure, and that's fine if you're writing your own code on your own computer and you screw something up and somebody gets in. That's on you.
And your boss gave you a deadline that the code has to ship next week. Security is not among your priorities.
Right. But security should be better than it is. And there are things that can be done. You can federate the space and do all kinds of very cool things with it. But people don't because it's difficult and confusing. For example, mail. How do you guarantee that, Steve, how do you guarantee that when I send you a mail, it came from me?
I currently don't.
You currently do not. We can. There are mechanisms to do that. But most email programs don't have the way to use those mechanisms. And if they do, setting them up is a massive pain in the patoot.
Exchanging private keys in a way that no one can observe. Steve Gibson has joked about that. You have to meet naked in the middle of a giant field with a blanket over your head and whisper in each other's ears the key.
Right.
Because
That's
otherwise
about right.
someone could be listening and capture that key.
And first you have to dig up the field to make sure nobody's buried a listening device in it.
Yep.
So those exist. You can do PGP, Pretty Good Privacy, or GPG, GNU Privacy Guard, which are basically the same thing. GPG is free. And set up your system to do that. But then you can't send mail to somebody. It's more difficult to send mail to somebody who isn't using GPG.
Yep.
And it's still difficult to send mail to people who are using GPG.
And that's why there's so much spam email.
Right.
It's very easy for the bad guys to spoof a sender, to spoof the subject, and trick people into thinking it's a real message.
Many decades ago, one of my bosses, I won't say at what company, was saying it was impossible to fake our email system, to spoof our email system. I immediately went back to my desk and sent him a message from King Blank at blanku.com. He came running in and said, "What happened here?" I said, "That's me.
Yep.
I just spoofed the mail system." So you can't do that. Apparently I can.
You may not do that.
Right. Apparently I can.
Very easily can do it.
Right. and because, again, mail systems were never designed to be secure.
And so the problem now becomes if you do design a secure mail system, so like Proton Mail,
right,
is absolutely encrypted and unbreakable to other Proton Mail users.
Right.
As soon as you go to the rest of the internet, there's what gets called a downgrade attack. Well, I have a mail server. I just say I don't support encryption. All right, here's plain text.
Yep. And the same thing's true of Gmail.
Yep.
Gmail is encrypted person to person. So if I send you an email, I'm on a Gmail account, you're on a Gmail account, it's 100% totally encrypted end to end. Except that it goes through other machines in the middle.
Yep.
And you're right. If one of those machines says, I'm sorry, I don't accept encryption, here's the plain text.
Yep.
There you go.
They go busted.
That's
and even if some IEEE doctrine comes down and says you must support secure email, millions of malicious servers will say nope, not going to bother.
Yep.
And then you won't have that benefit of encrypted email.
Right. There's a thought experiment that says we could be 100% protected immediately, but it's like the thought experiment is the only way you get a light to turn on is if you and 1 million of your friends all turn on the light switch at exactly the same moment. If just one person misses, nobody gets light.
Yep.
It's exactly the same way with these secure email things. I can be secure to Steve, but I'm not secure to Dave. Is my email system going to handle that correctly? Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. And even if I'm secure to Steve, if it goes through a server that says I don't do secure, oh, here's the plain text. Go, knock yourself out.
There's a thing working its way through the EU now.
Yes.
Article 45. So the EU wants every country in the EU to be able to put basically a security encryption certificate on the website.
Right.
So that any other company can read the data. So, for example, you're in France and you're sending a message to Italy. Turkey can say, oh, I want to read that message. And they can.
Yeah.
Because every country has their own security certificate.
Right.
So basically, thousands of security researchers and documentators have written open letters to the EU Commission saying this is incredibly stupid. It won't add any level of security. It will make everybody much more vulnerable on the internet. Please do not do this. But Article 45.
Right. There are a lot of rules, laws being contemplated now that were not written by computer people. Computer people look at them and say, A, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
B, if I could do this, it would be stupid.
Yep.
But these laws were not written by computer people. They were not written for intelligence. They were written to get your name in the paper.
Yeah.
Well,
go
ahead.
There was a thing. The Secure Messaging Acts that a lot of countries have said you must give us a backdoor if feasible.
Right.
So we have an out. It's not feasible, so we can't do it.
Can't do it. Sorry. Wish I could. All right. That's it. That music tells us that we are done for another week. I want to thank Dave Enright. I want to thank Steve Ray. And I want to thank everybody who called in. Great questions this week. We very much appreciate them. But you know what? Don't despair. We're here every single week. We're also here Sunday nights from 9 to 10. If you go to soundbites.org/lounge, you can join us in a video chat. For those of you who are members of Ask Nick, I promise I will restart the video chats after the first of the year. Life hit this year, and I'm going to take the rest of the month off, but we'll restart them in January. Thanks to everybody. It's Soundbites. It's member-supported Jazz 90.1. See you in 166 hours. Thanks, everybody.